Start to their day. Salutations, Spikelings, it is I, Preview Card Getter, and welcome to my Aspiring Spike, welcome to my Shark Typhoon. You know, people often ask me, Spike, I can see your face, but not those of your opponents on MTGO. Are they some kind of robots or other sentient magic playing creatures? The answer may surprise you. They're actually other humans. Speaking of, check out the Humans of Magic podcast for my stream. Obviously, until then, let's play some Tainted, Dimir, Shadow, Modern. Please enjoy. Well, yeah, the Humans of Magic podcast, I was on there a month or two ago, but James, the person who runs the podcast, did a really cool interview with a bunch of different Ukrainian Magic players. Over the last few weeks, spent a lot of time talking to them, and I got to listen to it early. It ended up turning out really well, and if you type !Humans of Magic in the chat, it'll give you a link to the podcast. I also retweeted it. I would recommend giving it a listen. Definitely a really special episode. Fall of Gondolin, 17 months. Trees Tim, 10 months in a chest with a 25. Thank you so much, guys. We're actually playing 17 lands. We got a sneaky Seagate Restoration over here. But we were talking about this deck last night. I did spend some time working on the list and play testing it, and I ended up liking it pretty well. This is Dimir Shadow, a deck that we were trying out for a little while after the Lurrus ban, and I always felt like what this deck needed was a source of card advantage, like Expressive Iteration. And the general idea here is by cutting the third color, you get to be more spell based. You get to be you get access to Stubborn Denial when you're in on Death Shadow and Murktide Regent. And you kind of need to be more spell-based if you're going to play both Street Wraith, Death Shadow, and Murktide Regent. And Murktide Regent also being like blue-blue, I think is kind of awkward in Grixis Shadow. Counterspell is kind of awkward in Grixis Shadow. It's kind of like you're playing the blue-red Murktide deck is kind of how I'm thinking about it. You're playing blue-red Murktide, but you're a little less threat-heavy and you're a bit more interaction-heavy. And you're playing obviously Shadow over the red creatures. It went pretty well last night. I was pretty impressed by my my admittedly limited playtesting. BGO with the Twitch Prime and Murillo the 2 months. Thank you so much. Gonna mulligan this one lander and keep this one. Putting back the second Fatal Push. Don't you always say that discard with counter magic is not great? I do say that a lot. I feel like a lot of times you have these like rules in Magic, and like understanding when to break them is kind of more important than understanding the rule necessarily. Like usually, like I usually really dislike Thoughtseize and counter magic in control decks. Control decks, when you're playing Thoughtseize and counter magic, is really awkward, where you're running your opponent out of resources, and then all of a sudden they you top deck a discard spell, and you've run your opponent out of cards in hand, but they have some cards at board. Your top deck discard spell is really awkward. You need to use your mana to like stay ahead on board. But discard spells in decks like this that are trying to clear the way for threats, I think, are usually way more acceptable. Discard spells trying to just again make room for your Death Shadow, make room for your Murktide Regent. I think do make the cut here. Okay, let's play Double Shadow here. And then I kind of glossed over this, but Tainted Indulgence, really good card advantage card in this deck. Obviously, sometimes it's going to be 2 mana, draw 2, discard 1, which is fine. But Street Wraith specifically is a card that's going to go to the graveyard to help get you 5 different mana values in the yard. Right now we have 4. You kind of need this Archmage's Charm in the yard, I guess. Ooh, give me back that Fatal Push. Right now we have 4. So Dress Down would be pretty nice. Okay, don't mind the Street Wraith as well. Another Death Shadow. I think I'm gonna... They have a Cavern of Souls, so I feel like the Charm is not doing too much. I'm gonna try to find like a fetch land, or like best case scenario would be land Dress Down. Do we still have prediction going? Looks like we do. I can pay it out. Though I guess I could have countered that charm, or the pact. And they've used one of their 3 land drops here, so they can go. I guess they can't haste the Titan. Yeah, they can't haste the Titan here. Not that they would necessarily want to. JF, the 19 months. I want to edge your sideboard in a loot league. Check what Spike's playing today. It was good face. Thank you for 19 months, JF. Yeah, the new room is pretty nice. I want to keep working on the setup in the background. I also have to set up Esther's desk. It took like we both got standing desks from IKEA, and we both forgot to pick up a piece, so we're checking out. We had to go back, but it took me like 2 hours to put my desk together. It's gonna probably take me about that long for hers. Maybe a little faster because I maybe know how to do it now. Was the conspiracy board destroyed in the move? No, it's in this box right here. It's in that box over there. Okay, so if I Thoughtseize my opponent here, my shadows become 7/7s, but they can. I guess they do have to chump block both of them. That's pretty good. And then they'll have 3 cards in the graveyard. Drown gets to counter a decent amount of stuff. All right. Cultivator Colossus, Summoner's Pact, Summoner's Pact. Alright, so I'll take one of the packs. I don't think I'm losing to this Colossus. We could have also drawn 2. A fetch land would have won us the game, but I think that we're pretty unlikely to lose with this line. Can you drown their blocker to win? They didn't have enough cards in their graveyard for Drown to kill a creature. Drown is usually like not that good in this matchup. How does this play differently than the Grixis version over the weekend? Yeah, so this version I think this deck is actually way closer to blue-red Murktide than it is to Grixis Shadow. Where the Grixis Shadow deck I've been playing over the weekend is really threat dense. It's really proactive. It's more leaning on like the proactive sorcery speed plays, while this deck is more about play one giant creature and back it up with a bunch of instant speed removal counterspells card draw. You also are playing discard spells as other pieces of interaction, but yeah, again, I think this deck is gonna end up playing way more like Murktide than Grixis Shadow. Is Seagate Restoration there? Just pay 3 life island. This is also a different mana value card for Tainted Indulgence. So this is actually a decent card to discard for Indulgence to just get like another 7 into the graveyard. But yeah, it is also like largely there just as a pay 3 life island. I'll cut the second stub. Wait, 1. Dauthi Voidwalker pretty good in this matchup. Usually like 3 push, 2 Inquisition, and against Titan. Voidwalker's pretty good, Drown's pretty bad. I was expecting some shredder action. Yeah, I was really trying to you could play an Odawara instead. I think that would be fine. Although yesterday I had my opponent Pithing Needle Odawara and it wasn't in the deck, so got some value there. I turn 1 Amulet. Yeah, their Azusa is looking pretty bad in this hand with no bounce lands. I also have Fatal Push to get rid of it. Let's mess around something like this. I thought of Windcaller Aven. Oh boy. Windcaller Aven, I don't know. Like 1 mana with cyclers that don't do anything. Wait, does that card give your creature flying? If that card gives your shadow flying, it's kind of more interesting. Is Shredder not essential with these? Have 5 CMC cards since it gives you the way to turn it on. The thing about Shredder, it's like, so the thing about Shredder is like Street Wraith is really crucial to this deck, so you can just 0 mana cycle, put a 5 into your yard, right? And then I don't think Shredder is that good when you don't have Bobble, or it's a lot worse when you don't have Bobble, right? And so I think it's actually like really difficult to fit both Shredder and Bobble and Street Wraith into this deck. I spent a long time last night trying to figure out how I could make that work, and I couldn't. So you know, we could talk about it, but I really am not sure what the best way to do that would be. You know, I'm actually almost out of fetchables in the deck. It's probably okay. Does get flying. Yeah, maybe that's more interesting. You could play. I mean, like again, these are like a lot of cards too that are like a lot of air. Like, I kind of think you could maybe cut the Inquisitions. I think Inquisitions are obviously fine, but that was one card I thought was maybe more of a flex spot. But we're 1-0. I will also say, like, I feel like it's just kind of fine for the first Tainted Indulgence to just not draw you 2 cards, and then future ones do. When we were looking at the house, I was just like, I hate the orange. I was like, I kind of like the orange. Bug, the 10 months, thank you so much. Wait, they Vesuvid copying Besagio? I missed that. This is Meebo, right? What is Meebo on today? Just Murktide? Looks like it. Yeah, I really think this deck is not supposed to play Shredder, and I know it's a hard call to make in a deck like this, especially when I've been like Shredder in all formats, all the time, all day, every day. I think I'm countering here. It's kind of awkward if they have a faster Murktide, but it's more awkward if my opponent has like a Ragavan. I guess I would just steal with Archmage's Charm. Shuffles away top card from Bauble. I think I'm just going to shock here. I can see those Inquisitions being nice to spell pierces. We already have Stubborn Denial in the deck. We have 2 Stubborn Denials. I think you could maybe do... I considered going like... Okay, I'm going to try to steal, I guess. I consider going... I don't know why I'm blanking so hard. Minus 2... Sorry, minus 2 Inquisitions plus 1 Stubborn Denial plus 1 Gurmag Angler. I think you kind of need the 9th Ferocious Creature for Angler to be good. I'm going to play the Shadow here. It's kind of likely to die. If we draw a Street Wraith, we get to turn this on. It's also okay, just draw 2, discard 1, I think. Pre-release foil, extended art foil. I mean, it's kind of like up to you, right? What you think is better. I don't think I've got a really strong preference. I personally really like etched foils, but I know that like etched foils seem to be like the least popular of all the different foil types. But I think as all that really matters is like, you know, what do you think is the coolest? So if my opponent drew a Counterspell, then maybe I can Indulgence and draw a card after the counter Murktide, but now I'm obviously just gonna iteration here. And that opponent definitely doesn't have a Counterspell in their hands, so we're gonna go Murktide Shadow here, and then I think I'm gonna go exile 1 instant from my yard here. And so next turn, my second Murktide is going to be pretty good, but this one still doesn't die to Lightning Bolt. I would try to change Indulgence Esper Reanimator. It's felt good there. I haven't it's obviously like a totally reasonable card to play there, but I'm just kind of bored by that idea. I guess I've been saying this a lot. I'm just like. It just is like such an obvious place to put it. It's like a pretty boring place to put it, in my opinion. It's not much better than Chart a Course in a Reanimator deck, which like because Reanimator decks like don't really care that much about playing at instant speed. It's maybe a small upgrade there, but it is in my opinion not a very big upgrade. I do think I need the Dismember on the draw. Yeah, I think I'll just cut the Inquisitions for 2 disputes. Thoughtseize hitting Murktide's a big deal. So yeah, I'm just like. Also, like lots of other people have been doing Tainted Indulgence and Esper Reanimator. Like that was like the first thing that Canister and Doom and Spider all did, and so it's also like just not something I'm in a huge hurry to try out. What matchup is Kaito good? Mostly for blue-white control, which is historically like not that good a matchup for this archetype too. So I wanted to have like a dedicated sideboard card for it. Like that draw a lot. Like that draw a lot too. So my shadow is going to be a 1/1 next turn, so probably obviously going to have to wait on that a little bit. Okay, just to chill. Would Turok not be better here for blue-white? You know, we're a 17 land deck. I'm kind of like, I think you're probably supposed to shy away from 4-mana spells. Okay, I have 2 counterspells and only 1 fatal push. So I think I'm going to use a counterspell here. Seeker Restoration solely for enabling Shadow. It's also a different mana value for Tainted Indulgence. It also, like, you can Murktide over it if it goes to the graveyard ever. Not that it's very likely to go to the graveyard. Okay, so am I supposed to push end of turn here? I think it's not that likely to resolve. If it doesn't resolve, though, then I can go Shadow plus 5/5 Murktide, or Murktide plus Stubborn Denial. Or if I draw another fetch land, I get to, you know, do all 3, which is pretty good. Only 1 instant or sorcery in their graveyard. I think I am going to go for the 5/5 Murktide with stub up. Kind of bad into Mystical Dispute. I've seen you running less than 20 land count decks recently. Is it just as specific those decks you feel like land counts are lower in general modern? It's just like this archetype of like super low mana curve. With decks with like lots of card selection. Murktide and Shadow specifically are like kind of the only decks that can get away with this. Stubby D, although opponent does have Unholy Heat online, but no Unholy Heat in the hand, it looks like. Puts us in great shape. Holding both counters up this turn is pretty nice. Playing a 5/5 Shadow is also really nice. Playing a 5/5 Shadow doesn't necessarily change the clock, so I think I'm just going to hold up double counter here. No beats, almost 2 years. I normally lost interest in streamer by now. Yeah, it's okay. I don't never hold it personally if you guys ever do. But I'm glad you like it to stream no beats. I'm glad you're still enjoying yourself. And Red Beretta also with the 9 months. Thank you so much. Okay, Drown obviously bet against the Murktide here. Counterspell look like it's working. I thought about trying to fit a little more threats in here, like Delver or something. Well, that's kind of the thing. Is like I'm of the opinion that I don't think you want to sacrifice threat quality in order to be more threat dense, especially when Death Shadow and Murktide and Shadow are like the 2 threats that are just these are just so good at ending the game. You know what I mean? Like these 2 threats specifically are just like the best at like putting into play, and they win the game by themselves. And Delver of Secrets is not usually like that in Modern. It's usually pretty fragile to removal. And I think if your only threats are Murktide and Shadow, then you don't need to be that threat heavy. At least that's the theory here. It's kind of it is kind of more experimental deck building. I agree. Breeze with the 15 months and T Banks with 8. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited to be in the house too. Yeah, 2-0 with the new Brew. Deck is actually broken, huh? We broke it. The deck has been feeling pretty good. I mean, it is just a pile of good cards, which is usually a good combination. Also, Yawgmoth in the meta. I think Yawgmoth's basically always good. I have a hard time imagining that there's gonna be a time where Yawgmoth is just terrible. I think I'm okay drawing a land here, so I'll just not fetch yet. And then we can Indulgence end of turn. Indulgence is also kind of like an interesting Delve enabler. It's all, you know, this is not strictly just 2 mana draw 2 in the deck. If it were, it would be better, but it's also like not bad to just like make your Murktides a bit better. Okay, probably playing against Reanimator here, which I have to imagine is a good matchup. Obviously, Neoform with an offer you can't refuse. I haven't seen them play that card. I think it's probably an interesting option for them, yeah. Okay, they've got their own Mending here. Discard 2 Archons. Alright, I'm going to discard my Murktide. It's also like a good mana value here, so I now have 5, 7, 2, 0. So if when I get this one in the yard, this next Indulgence will be a draw 2. But let's go Thoughtseize here. They have Kaito in their hand. I usually don't like Kaito in these versions without like the very low curve. They also have Solitude, which is probably means I can't play both Shadows this turn, as much as I would love to just combo kill them with the Dress Down. They also have Muldrifter. Their hand's pretty good. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm kind of surprised they didn't discard the rights. I think I'm supposed to take Prismatic Ending, and then I think I just pass, and I can Dress Down their Muldrifter or Stubborn Denial their Kaito, or just Tainted Remedy. I guess I don't know. Maybe I was supposed to play Shadow if I felt like they were going to play the Kaito, but I kind of felt like they would play the Muldrifter here. That's probably fine. Okay, so just one Shadow because they have the Solitude. I guess they don't necessarily have the white card, but I mean it's just such a disaster if they have the white card that I think this is probably fine. Working on Esperanto with Hullbreaker Horrors, persist target. I've tested horror before. I have tested it. I don't like it very much. I just really dislike that you need like other cards in your hand for this card to really do anything. Alright, Push is kind of dead. Opponent's hand is Rights, Solitude, Mystery card. Not a very good pickup. Pretty dead card in the matchup. Yeah, they have a land as the last card. So brutal. I do get to hit them for 8. One issue too here is if they Solitude my Shadow. If they Solitude my Shadow, I'm actually like, it's good because I only have 4 Shocklands in the deck. It's gonna be hard to get my other Shadow into castable range. My donation for tech is exploding. Oh, Brutus. Someone gifted a sub to Meeble's channel for winning. Thank you to them. Okay. So Shadow dead, hit by the Muldrifter, which lets me cast this one. Okay, so we're going to be able to cast this now. Maybe push my Shadow. Yeah, sorry, I definitely should have pushed my Shadow. No Shadows. I sort of, yeah, I as much as I love Shredder, obviously, like, I'm maybe the biggest Ledger Shredder fan in the world at the moment. I don't think it's correct to play it here. I know I've been memeing a little bit about just playing it in every deck all the time, but I actually don't think this is the right show for it. Was this 2 punts? And pushing my own Shadows was probably a punt. I'm not sure what the second one was here. Bolt lands are not good enough blue black. I'm playing 1. I don't know how many more you can play than that. Dude, yeah, drawing triple push against a deck where push is dead is obviously not where you want to be. The second one was saving the fetch. Sure. Could you deny Solitude? Solitude is a creature spell. Stubborn Denial is only non-creatures. Should some of these push to be Dismember? We have a Dismember. I mean, listen, we're not supposed to play against Esper Reanimator and be like, we gotta cut Fatal Push from the deck. I think, right? So it's obviously not good in this matchup specifically, but it is still, I think, a very good card in the metagame. Okay, I'll probably cut the 4th Dress Down, 4th Indulgence, 4th Street Wraith, 4th Murktide. Bring in more threats here. Is Dispute actually good? Yeah, they're playing Kaito, Anteferi, and Muldrifter, and Tainted Remedy. I'm assuming Tainted Remedy. Drown Dauthi combo. Yeah, people always say this. They always go, Drown and Loch Dauthi Voidwalker, this is a huge combo. I've never really felt tension between these two cards because, 1, Dauthi doesn't exile any cards already in your opponent's graveyard, and 2, if you do have a Drown in your hand and you feel like you need to use it, it's usually really easy to just sack your Voidwalker. for some value. Was there any merit to holding Dress Down for the Solitude? I think the problem was like the Mole Drifter made it so easy for them to find a white card for the Solitude. I thought it was more important too. I thought it was more important to dress down the Solitude, the Mole Drifter there, and you know just get a 2-for-1 off the Solitude for the Shadow. So their marches are going to be good against my Shadow here. I think I'm supposed to take the Unmarked Grave so my second discard spell is more live. It's not necessarily the best draw here. I will go ahead and play a Shadow out. Assuming this deck doesn't ever want to aim to draw 2, discard 0 off Tainted. Yeah, you do want to. Street Wraith, like the kind of idea is that Street Wraith is a card that enables that to some extent. Okay, so I guess what I'm going to do is attack, and then if they cast the March here, then I'll cycle the Street Wraith. Let's go Fetch Shock now. I think I probably would Stubborn Denial this. Do I want to Archmage's Charm? The thing is, I know they have a second. I know that they have a second March in their hand. But this kind of time walks them and then makes them take 8, so it's probably fine. Not never, but like not often just because Murky delves, but maybe it's full enough. Well, Tainted Remedy also sets up for your Murktides to delve better. I think the idea is that you can be you can plan for it, be a little bit flexible. I have drawn 2 off of it several times. What is the main function of Tainted in the deck? I think you guys are all overthinking it. It is both card selection and card draw at instant speed in a deck with lots of counter magic. Yeah, you guys are all overthinking it a little bit. I don't think some secret. There's no secret combo. Street Wraith is a card that like really helps you get to the 5 different types in the mid to late game. Usually on like turns 2 or 3, this card is not going to draw you 2 cards for 2 mana, but that's also okay because it can set you up for a Murktide. Kaito's also probably okay in this matchup, but just gonna resubmit. I like the sideboard plan. Has it ever drawn 2? It did in my testing last night. I don't know if it has today. It's 5 times same as beyond difficult. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. we could move on. I think I've said my piece. Like I don't know. I know that there's like a little bit of a chat delay, but I just feel like I say the same things over and over again in these conversations, and they can end up being not that productive. Okay, Mold to 6 Leyline. I guess that's okay. Yeah, it did game 1. Yeah, it did game 1. I think. And just like the ability to have that instant speed card selection, card draw is really relevant in a deck with all this counter magic. Okay, I'm gonna jam the Voidwalker. I think. I guess. They shocked the Fountain into play actually. So if they have Mending, Persist, this is a losing line. Okay, I think I'll pass. You want to get one? Yeah, but I also said like a few times, right, that I have drawn 2 off of it several times, and then I feel like it's probably just a delay. But then there's people like, has this ever drawn 2? Like I just said it. I'm just gonna cycle this, try to find a land. Could maybe just counter the Mending here. I think that's okay. I'm just so ahead here because they're on a mulligan. They Mending for like some card disadvantage. Oh, they're not casting anything. They're just gonna let me go to discard. Good play. I'm actually discarding Voidwalker here. It's probably too deep. Do you think this deck is a good alternative budget to Blue-Red Murktide? I think so, yeah. We just beat Blue-Red Murktide, actually. Yeah, it's just like if I play the Voidwalker, they discard the Archon. It's so bad for me. I think I'm still passing. Now the Indulgence I can just play that on their turn and try to draw into a land. I could discard a 3 here, then I'll have 4 different mana values. I think I'll just discard a Drown. Ethan with the deck tech, we put something in the chat, I'll take a look. Charm seems bad on 2 lands. Thank you for your comment. Oh, you wanted to discard it here. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay. Do you have to discard something? I think it's going to be the Dress Down. Maybe it's the Voidwalker if I feel like I could just never deploy it. They're obviously stumbling a little here. I'll discard the Dress Down. Okay, then we can draw 2 with Charm end of turn. Obviously coming out of the mana screw a little bit. Kaito Copium is the name of this deck. Ledger Shredder, Gearhulk, Kaito, Narset. Interesting. Draw 2, discard 1. Better than strict draw 2 when you're going to discard anyways. It wasn't. I was 1 type away. I didn't have any 1 mana value cards in the yard. Oh, sorry, I misread that the comment was a joke. Okay, let's fetch Shock so that we have Ferocious, and then we can go Shadow with Stub and 2 mana counter magic up. Let that resolve. So I feel like Kaito is not very good in a deck like this that is playing only 3 2-mana creatures. I feel like for Kaito to be good, you want to be playing like 6 to 8 creatures that are 1 or 2 mana so that you can attack and draw a card immediately with Kaito. Rock the 15 months, appreciate you. Shark Typhoon kind of helps, but it's a bit awkward on the mana curve. Shredder is also very, very strong, but I think that you need to be playing a few more cantrips for Shredder to be good. And I know the name of this deck is Kaito Copium, but there's some tension here where Kaito wants your curve to be really low, Shredder wants your curve to be really low, and then you have Torrential Gearhulk, Narset, Commit Memory in your deck. So I feel like if you're gonna play Kaito Shredder, you need to like cut the Gearhulks, cut the Narsets, cut the Commit Memories, play the full 4 Shredder, play the full 4 Consider, and then play the potentially the 2 mana 1/1 that gets +2/+2 if you have 5 or more mana values in your yard. Then when it dies, you get to mill 2, draw a card. They've already discarded 2 Ephemerates. I think countering to conceal my hand is pretty valuable here. I'm gonna counter this, and like also blanking any Ephemerates is nice. What did they pitch? They pitched another Grief. I do think this is worth stub or denial when my opponent doesn't have any Archon of Cruelty in the graveyard. Yeah, so yeah, cut the expensive cards, get that curve lower. And I do think that 4 Shredder, 4 of those 2/1s, 3 Kaitos, and like a couple Typhoons are going to be enough to theoretically close out a game for you. So they persist the Grief. We'll see if they have a 3rd copy of Ephemerate. You also could probably trim some lands too. You could probably just cut the Field of Ruins and play 22. You might have room for some ops at that point. I think Sideboard looks really good though. I might not play the full 3 Necromancia, but I do feel like the sideboard looks pretty good. So they're gonna Ephemerate. They are gonna take the 2nd Drown, I presume. Only 1 card in their hand, no Archon in the yard, 2 Persist in the graveyard. Feeling okay about her spot. Can I speak to the strength of March Weatherlight and Blue-White? Is there a reason it's been dropped? In like Blue-White Control and Modern? I mean, I've liked the card in the past. Like the reality with the, Blue-White Control and Modern is that you have a lot of really good options, and you don't get to play all the good cards in your deck. But I think I still like March and Blue-White. It's at least a good option. That cheap blue creature. It's... Sure, someone can help me out. Does anybody know the name of the 2 mana 2 Aven Heartstabber? Aven Heartstabber. Okay, so if they don't block this, Dress Down is lethal potentially. All right, going for it. Okay, so despite us stumbling on mana this game, we are 3-0 with the deck. We're 3-0 with the deck. I feel like you always see in these blue decks, people are just like, I'm just gonna add. Wait, you're endless detouring your own. Your own terminus from the yard. Okay, that is actually pretty cool. But people are like, I'm just gonna put one Brazen Bar in my deck, and now I'm just good against Chalice and rest in peace, baby. Obviously, that's a bit hyperbolic, but I don't know. It does feel like a lot of time people are like, yes, one Brazen Borrower. Now my deck list is complete. Okay, I can't Shadow here. Just gonna pass back. Not gonna play a spell into the Sentinel just yet. It's all been so clear. The one Brazen Borrower is everything this deck needs. And this is just like, I feel like every blue deck I ever played, people were like, let's play one Borrower Spike. I think that's what the deck needs. And you might not be wrong, but I'm usually like way lower on like that one copy of Borrower than most people are. I think it adds like a decent amount of flexibility, but I actually think you sacrifice a level of consistency that I'm not super happy about. Okay, this turn let's go Dismember on the Sentinel. The next turn we can go like discard spell, Shadow. Hopefully discard spell, Shadow. Does 4 shocks feel like enough? You could play an off-color shock. You do run out sometimes. I considered it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, okay, if they're just attacking the Sentinel, they probably don't have a hammer in their hand, right? I feel like this is a tell. Like, countering the Sigarda's Aid here kind of feels like a losing line, leaving them with the Sentinel. And then if we dismember the Sentinel in response to the Sigarda's Aid, we're dead to hammer anyways, so I feel like we're just supposed to do this. If they have a hammer, they have a hammer. Yeah, but they didn't attack with the Thopter, which was kind of a tell. So here, I kind of like just play Shadow with Counterspell up, and then they obviously don't have a hammer in their hand. They didn't have anything else to do with their mana. Yeah, I think I just want to play hold the Counterspell up here. If only a Flooded Strand. Yeah, any blue fetch land is exactly the same here. Let's go! It's kind of free for the bean, huh? Okay, we're gonna bring in the Dress Downs and the Explosives. I wonder if Stubborn Denial is any good in this matchup. It's probably okay. I'm kind of interested in playing maybe like one copy, and then let's like go down on the Thoughtseizes. Down to like 2 Inquisition, 1 Thoughtseize, one Thoughtseize. The 17 lands feel like enough. Feels a little low with only 4 cantrips. Is 17 right? I've liked it so far. I don't know. It's not only 4 cantrips. It's 4 Street Wraith, 4 Tainted Indulgence. I'm not sweating it that much. The difference between 17 and 18 lands is honestly not that big a deal. You could play the 18th if you don't feel that comfortable. I don't really mind it. I'm currently, I think, like 6-1 with this list, so it's, at the very least, it's not like 17 lands is a horrible way to build the deck. All right, gonna keep this and hope my opponent doesn't have a turn 1 Sentinel again. But Grief instead of IOK. Grief is not good in these kind of decks. Grief is not a card you should be playing in decks that can't like flicker it or ephemerate it. It's just not a good card to have. I think I'm going to push the Sentinel here, deny them a mana. I know I give them a card, but on the draw it may just be fine to have to take the 2 for 1. Especially if it means I get to deny them a mana. If they have a counterspell here, I'm just so upset. So upset. So upset confirmed. Disaster. Esper Sentinel is a messed up magic card. I can't even play the Shadows yet. Alright, take our draw, I guess. Okay, we're gonna go for double Death Shadow here, and then next turn we can Street Wraith for lethal, potentially. Hopefully they just make 2 Saga tokens, so the Saga kills the Street Wraiths. Or so the Dress Down kills the Saga tokens. Awesome, Ozymandias. Glad to have you here. Might have to settle this on the play for game 3. What can you do? I guess main phase of the push. I wasn't even sure I wanted to push. I think we played that fine. Just take our L with grace and dignity. And then Sentinels is definitely way worse on the draw. Love to find a third Street Wraith. Chalice not good. Why not bring it in? Well, maybe if you take a close look at my mana curve, I have 16 1-mana spells in my deck, which means the Chalice will actually affect me a decent amount too. You know, it's not a asymmetrical card. Chalice is only in the sideboard for Cascade decks in this. Cascade decks, and you can maybe bring in 1 copy against Titan for Chalice. I didn't earlier. What's the Seagate just for dealing with your image itself? Yeah, it also can be a different mana value in your graveyard if you discard it to Remedy or something else. So I think I'm fetch shocking before I cycle any Street Wraiths here. How do you beat Murktide? How do you deal with that creation deck? Counters mostly? Yeah, mostly counters. You also have your own Murktides, right? So it's like if you have your own Murktide Regents, you don't need to necessarily be so worried about killing your opponents because you can also just trade. Like Shadow and Murktide are can just contend with that card in combat. And you also have counter magic. Drowning Loch can also kill Murktide Regent a decent amount of the time. More often than I think people tend to expect it to. Yeah, I know my misnames have been all over the place. Yeah, I straight up cannot call Tainted Indulgence anything besides Tainted Remedy. Have I considered Shredder here? Of course. Of course. I tried really hard to fit it in, but I think that, one, for Shredder to be good, you have to play Bauble. For Remedy to be good in this deck, I think you have to play Street Wraith. I don't think that there's room for Shredder, Bauble, Street Wraith, and the amount of interaction you need. I think I think it's pretty tough because it's you would think you'd want to cut the charms, but then you have no 3 jobs for your Tainted Indulgence besides your Dismembers, and then you still have to cut 4 more cards to make room for Baubles. You can maybe cut the 2 Inquisitions and the 2 Stubs, but then again you have no 3s for your Indulgence. So as good as I think Shredder is, why is my opponent taking so long? As good as I think Shredder is, I don't think it fits here. Do you feel like an advantage from streaming because chat helps or disadvantage from the slim chance opponent stream snipes? It is definitely harder to stream than to not stream. My win percentage off stream is usually higher than on stream. It's less about either of those things though than just being distracted. I think that chat is not a helpful presence so much as me answering the same 5 questions over and over again all stream, every stream, while trying to play Magic at a high level is harder than it looks. I'm usually not looking at chat for lines. I'm looking to engage the chat and try to educate and entertain. It is definitely harder to stream and play Magic than not stream. Not that nobody in chat ever suggests a good line, but it's also there's definitely more lines let's bring in Chalice of the Void in this match. Those kind of lines, you know. Do you think Shredder will be a modern staple? I do, yeah. What Spell Pierce? We have Stubborn Denial. I don't think we have 2 Stubborn Denials main one side. I don't think you also want Spell Pierce. I'd play the 4th Stub over the 1st Pierce. The house is pretty good. We're still settling in. We have a lot to do. Esther is really busy. She has finals this week, and she's under a crunch at work too. So, okay, opponent's mulled to 5, and I'm also very busy during the week too. I've been trying to do as much as I can around the house, but just have a lot to do. It's okay to ask questions related to the current deck. Yeah, that's fine. Might not answer them, but you can ask. Alright. Can't do anything turn 1, unfortunately. But I put a mulled to 5. I think we're doing okay. Turn 1 Sentinel, all 3 games, maybe. Yeah. At least they're on a mold of 5 this time. I kind of just want to kill it. I kind of just want to kill it. Because if I don't draw a land, it's just gonna... I'm gonna have to do this anyways. This gets to be more mana efficient. They're on a mold of 5, so like obviously like giving them a 2-for-1 is not ideal. A mana inefficient 2-for-1 is not ideal. But the Sentinel is just still so sick against my hand. And then like next turn, if I miss a land, I can maybe go for like Tainted Indulgence into like Fetch Shock Shadow or something. I was so sure they're gonna play another Sentinel here. Thankfully not though. Right now I have 3 different mana values in the yard. Yeah, let's try to find a land off the Indulgence. Spell Pierce would be bad. Looks like they have it. If they have it, they didn't cast it. Let's discard this Inquisition. We also didn't find our 3rd land though. That's hopefully going to be okay. We do have double Shadow Dress Down, so next turn we can play double Shadow, set up for potential lethal. Did the Collage survive? It's over there. It's I don't know where the easel is. The Collage is over there. I don't know where the easel is, so hopefully we find it. Opponent grabs a Cauldron Complete. Alright, definitely just going to go for the double Shadow line, as Dress Down is very good against my opponent's Giver. Cauldron, Dress Down's going to be so sick next turn, assuming my opponent doesn't have Spell Pierce. Noodles with the 16 months, appreciate you. Barbola, I don't want to check out your Phoenix deck, I'm sorry. Please don't spam the chat. I'm not interested. What's the best way deck to play against Murktide? The best deck is blue-white control. Why did you discard 2 Street have more than 6 mana value? You have to have 5 different mana values. That's not how the card works. Explosives 01 seems bad. I agree. I want to try Gertrude Shredder Shadows we played in Challenge and I recommend it. I would recommend it, yeah, I like the deck. My opponent is deep in the tank, huh? Deep in the tank. Could E0 pass? I think it's attacking is just way better. Like attacking is way better. I think it puts them in a really miserable position. It beats the Giver, beats the Cauldron. I just get to have a crazy blowout here, right? And potentially cycle into a land. Germ still has the abilities even with Dress Down. I believe it makes this lose the abilities. It does make it lose the abilities. Oh no, my Shadow dies end of turn. I forgot about that because it still has the 5 damage marked on it. I think it's still okay. Like getting the Germ token off the field is a big priority. Yeah, end of turn Dress Down on top Explosive 0 seems fine too, but then I let my opponent have a whole turn. Still not finding land number 3 is bad. Destructo with another freaking 5-pack. A total of 250 gifted subs to the channel. It's kind of crazy. Feels like it was like 100 last week. It might have been actually. Okay. 1, 2, 3 instants. There's sorceries in the yard. There's finally land number 3. Engineered Explosives on 1 might be okay. Sacrifice the Shadow. Mostly clear the board. I could also just kind of like lean in on these Drown the Lochs a little bit. I think that's probably fine. At least this turn. Let's see if my opponent is gonna go block pro black. They might not. Okay, they are. This is fine. We'll just let these bounce off each other. I'll keep up the counter magic this turn. I currently have 1, 2, 5, 0 in the yard, so Yeah, I guess I still have forgotten to put up the sticky note. I mean, we've got a lot to do around the house. I haven't forgotten, though. How much do I care about the Stoneforge Mystic? I guess it's kind of bad if they have a Nettle Cyst, but if they have Nettle Cyst, I maybe can set up for explosives on 0. I kind of feel like I would rather drown the Giver of Runes. I feel like they'll probably get a hammer. Oh, they get Reality Chip. Maybe I can explosives on 2. Definitely a tough game to navigate. So gonna get in Pioneers. Winota's still a good deck. I do think Winota's a good deck. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Winota was banned before the Pro Tour. Like I feel like the Pro Tour format would be more interesting with like both Winota and Lotus Field bans, but we'll see what happens. Opponent's very clearly double queuing with something IRL. Yeah, I don't think an exact date for the Pro Tour has been announced yet. But I believe it's qualifiers now, and then like I think it's like first quarter of 2023 is the first Pro Tour. That's not on deck for the PT yet. I haven't qualified yet. The qualifiers start next month. But like just like spending time mastering the Pioneer format's like really important to get into the process of qualifying, you know. Hammer Time playable with Pioneer? I think so. I've seen we've been done like a lot of deck techs for it. We see those pop up. I haven't actually spent the time to work on it yet. Do you think Lotus is close to the best deck in format? I do, yeah. I think it's like a really difficult deck to play, but I think in the hands of the best pilots, it's really, really, really strong. I think like before Beseiju was printed, it was like way more manageable because you could play sideboard cards for it, and those sideboard cards would really consistently win you the game. Alpine Moon Damping Sphere specifically, but now like they can just Sylvan Scrying for Beseiju and kill your Loch piece and untap and kill you a lot of the time. And just like the fact that they can like tutor for their answer to your Loch piece to your sideboard card is rough. Are we to cast Murktide soon? Well, I hope we just get to take our turn soon. My opponent's playing so slowly. I hope we get to do anything soon. Juker's the 2-pack, assuming that's for a deck tech. Can take a look. Right. There's a Spell Pierce that we were kind of sniffing out. Okay, my opponent has Reality Chip in their hand. The Esper Sentinel continues to be just such an obnoxious thorn in my side. Our options seem to be explosives on 2, pay 1, explosives on 2, don't pay. Explosives on 1. No, I probably need to save the second explosives for like E here on 1 maybe. Maybe. I mean I lose my shadow. And like I also know that my opponent has Reality Chip in their hand, so explosives on 2 is kind of nice. E on 1 has to be it. I mean when I have my shadow in play. I guess E on 1 pay. Yeah, you're right, there's the line. E 1 pay. And then sack end of turn, and then I can set up for E on 2. It is kind of a problem to like not have like the like if I this doesn't let me like explosives on 0, but getting the Sentinel off the field, taking the 2 for 3 is not bad. Stopping them from playing any more 1-mana spells. And then I can potentially ignore the Stoneforge Mystics and explosives on 0. Okay, Jund Ascendancies and whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may return target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tap. Do this only once each turn. So the idea is that you are going to evoke your Spite Bellows, Shriek Balls, sack the Greater Gargadon, get back a Grief in your Furies. I mean, actually 0 cycle cards in your Living Index seems like a mistake. Seems like a misbuild. Thank you, DK. Yeah, I don't think I can support that. This is an interesting build. I will also say that, oh dude, they have Blacksmith skill. Still 3 for 2. Okay, so I feel like this turn should probably just be Murktide with Drown to lock up, and then hopefully my opponent kind of commits a bunch. If they go play 2 Saga tokens, we can EN 0 and get them next turn. Otherwise, we have Indulgence plus Drown Up, which seems okay. Another S card is just Reality Chip, so I can F6. Like, I will also say, like, this effect it seems very slow. It requires your opponent to, like, not interact with your 3-mana enchantment, which is surprisingly easy to do in a Counterspell, Prismatic Ending, it's a Fairy Time Raveler format. It's kind of awkward on your mana curve, too, where, like, the Living Index are super globbed in the 3-mana slot, right? And so, all of a sudden, your curve is, like, all 3 drops, which is kind of awkward. I do kind of like getting to play Grief and Fury in Living It. I think that is kind of interesting. I don't hate that. But I am not, I think, super keen on 0 cyclers. I'm not super keen on Spite Bellows. I'm not super keen on the Ascendancy in general. So, I'm not sure. The Restore Balance that we're playing is pretty cool with the Greater Gargadons. I wonder if that could be the plan A. Maybe not. But also maybe yes. All right, let's let this go. I'm gonna try to cast the Indulgence here, and then like finding like specifically one of our dress downs. We do still have 3 more dress downs in the deck. Would be pretty key, I feel. I guess they could have, if they had gone pro blue attack, that could have been awkward. Okay, let's discard a Counterspell. Another Counterspell. Okay, so line this turn's got to be Explosives on 0. Sacrifice immediately to not die to Blacksmith skill. And then attack for 7, I think. If they spend 3 mana to equip Reality Chip, that's probably going to be fine. Garg with the Twitch Prime, thank you. I did consider Avenheart Stabber. I don't think there's room. I mean, I feel like this list is relatively tight. You have like a few flex spots, but I don't think that makes the cut. Yeah, I don't know if I have too many notes. I mostly feel like this deck is too lost to the sauce, is maybe kind of my final note here. All right, them having Urza Saga on top is pretty good for them, although it may be a little too slow for them to race my Murktide Regent. If I find another Murktide Regent, I am presenting lethal next turn, so casting Tainted Remedy is going to be pretty appealing. Stupid Sentinel. Could counter the Sentinel. I'll counter the Sentinel. Just so off of it. Okay, they attack me for 1, put me down to 6. So is it better to just leave up, or what if I just go end of turn dress down? Well, it doesn't stop them from reality chipping, but the shadow doesn't seem like it does too much against this pretty clogged up board. They have 4, 5. They can't equip Cauldra. I could go end of turn dress down here, and then I could kill the Stoneforge Mystic. And then there's not really much I lose to. Let them waste mana on constructs. I mean, they're not going to waste mana on constructs into this Murktide. Should we go for the Indulgent pre-combat, try to get lethal this turn? I guess we should have. I mean, I think this line ended up being pretty good, where like my opponent's hand is not Sigarda's 8 Colossus Hammer. And like with the dress down being in play on their turn, it's gonna be really hard for them to figure out how to get a win here. With them not having the reality chip cards anymore. Inkmoth Nexus is kind of one of the best cards they could have. Especially because they have their giver now. Dang it. Dang it. Removal doesn't even get the job done because of the giver. Yeah, we just have to Murktide Shadow and hope to have lethal for next turn. And then I should be able to have this be a draw 2 next turn, obviously like really late in the game, but got the Seagate in the yard for the extra card. The problem is like they've got the Cauldron 2, they've got these Urza Saga tokens. The Inkmoth Nexus was such a crazy card to have here. On a turn where I definitely like read them as like not being that strong. One nice thing here though is that we have a black and a blue creature, so they shouldn't be able to just kill me with Giver of Runes. So I'm gonna grab Thopter. Maybe, I think I'm gonna grab Shadow Spear, but we'll see. Hopefully they don't have Aether Spell Bomb. Surprised no Turk on the side, 2 black heavy. It's like, maybe 2 black heavy, but we're also a 17 land deck, so I think I just want to play Kaito instead of Turok for the blue-white matchup to have lower mana curve. They can also get Springleaf Drum and equip Kaldra, but we can block the Kaldra. If they have Paladin, it's super bad. Yeah, we're probably not beating Paladin. They get an Ornithopter, but they're top decking Paladin if they have Paladin this turn. Okay, they are equipping, but we can block, right? Yeah, we can block. Yeah, so if they tap all their lands to equip here, then they only have 1 flying blocker. But I guess what they can do is they can go protection from black on the construct with the Giver of Runes, and then I have to block with a Murktide Regent, and then they still have a flying blocker. But then they've tapped their Giver of Runes, and then they're dead to any removal spell, and I've got 3 looks at a removal spell and deck full of removal spells. The clock is our friend. I mean, I know my opponent's been playing so slow, but I think there's like almost no chance they time out with still 4 minutes. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, it feels good to be more settled in at this point. Cauldron does give haste, yeah. Oh, they can equip onto... Oh, yeah, they have the win. They have the win. Yeah, they can Cauldron the Ornithopter from blue. They haven't done it yet, though. How does Cloth is like the new place? Well, nothing too bad's happened so far, so I guess well. Where the pros of going 2 colors in shadow. So yeah, here's kind of the thing. Let's see. They're finally taking an action. I feel like this deck is more of a Murktide deck than the Shadow deck, or at the very least, like it plays more like it. It's more counterspell based. So you're kind of just like building the deck. Yes, they missed the line. So we're just kind of building the deck differently, if that makes sense, you know. So protection from blue. I have to block with Shadow. I go to 3. I go to 3, but my Shadow lives, right? No, it dies to the Kaldra, no matter what. Wait, aren't they just dead on board? Thopter something said Kaldra gives Thopter haste. The Kaldra gives the Thopter haste. Tank, punt. Alright, we're 4-0 in our first league. Let's get a prediction going. You can cast it if you steal Birds of Paradise with Archmage's Charm. Or Ragavan. Pretty good hand. Can keep this. We have about as much mana as we're going to need for a while, so probably fetch Shock on turn 1 to thin a little bit. Love the idea. I was thinking about Wraith plus Indulgence to put it together. Yeah, someone was talking about it, suggested it yesterday, and I've been like working on the Dimir Shadow deck for a while, and it all just came together pretty well. Oh yeah, or if opponent has Urborg. Yep. So I wanted to build blue black with Indulgence. I went without hand disruption. Yeah, I was thinking about cutting the Inquisitions. I think the Inquisitions specifically are flex spots. I think you have to play the Thoughtseizes. Yeah, like right now I feel like I think you want at least 2 stubs, but I think you could potentially cut 2 Inquisitions for 1 Angler 3rd stub. I'm not really wanting to play more than 2 stubs without like 9 creatures that enable it, ideally 10. But 9 kind of feels like the minimum. But I also kind of feel like raising like Inquisition is also like helps you delve your delve creatures, and so like cutting Inquisition, adding a delve creature feels a bit weird, which is kind of why I built a deck like this. What is this keep, dude? I'm gonna take the Fire Ice. I don't know, maybe it's okay. Ledger as another threat. I mean, here's the thing about Ledger Shredder. Like, again, you have to play Shredder and Bauble. So we've had like probably 1,000 suggestions for adding Ledger Shredder to the deck today. As much as I love the card, if you're going to suggest adding it, you have to suggest how you're going to fit Shredder and Bauble into this deck list. And like, I think like the way like you might want to do it is cutting Archmage's Charm. But if you cut Archmage's Charm, then all of a sudden, then all of a sudden you don't have like any 3s for your Tainted Indulgence. You just have like 1 Dismember. If you give her of Runes, the creature with Colleges, Cauldron falls into protection from colorless. Yeah, if you protection from colorless, but if that's only if you choose protection from colorless. Protection from blue is fine. I'm just gonna cycle the Dress Down right now, I think. Instead of Bauble, why not use Gitaxian Probe? I'm not sure if you're just teasing, but that card is not legal in this format. No teasing allowed. Dude, they drew the 3rd Footfalls. Alright, so they have Fire, Ice, Fury. And they're going to have a mystery card, so hopefully it's not Brazen Borrower. No, they play 4 copies of Footfalls. I think I'm going to counter the Fire Ice, just like time walking them feels pretty good, denying the draw feels pretty good. I'm going to use the Counterspell because I can steal a Rhino with Charm, which is pretty nice. Think we maybe save life for Dismember. I mean, I only have 1 Dismember. You can also spend mana on Dismember. It's a pretty good draw. Could Sea get replaced with any weird mana value card, something like Shark Typhoon? No, it has to be a land. We're not going down to 16 lands. We're not cutting a land, adding a Shark Typhoon. Thoughts on Tron with Ledger Shredder? Probably great. If it's a deck that plays Ledger Shredder, it's probably great. Why didn't my opponent cycle Fire Ice? It's really weird. Well, I'm gonna just take my draw. I took it? No, they have another Fire Ice in their hand. Am I losing my mind? I might be. No Bauble Shadow feels weird. I mean, I think you play Street Wraith or Shadow or Bauble in these Shadow lists. Street Wraith is good with Indulgence. What threat spread do you think will be correct for Blue Red Merc? I think 4 Ragavan, 4 DOC, 4 Merc 2 Ledger. Something close to that. I was playing 3 Ledger and I liked it. I kind of wanted to find room for I think I want to play at least 3. You get, and like you maybe even want to do something like 4 Ledger, 3 DRC, or 4 of each. Or I saw someone top 8'd a challenge with 4 Ledger Shredder, 0 DRC. It's just gonna take some time to hammer it out, but at the very least, like when I'm still testing new cards like Ledger Shredder, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how good it is, especially when we've been playing with 4th Footfalls, especially when we've been playing with like Ragavan DRC for almost a year now. I just want to be playing with more Shredders and to get a feel for the card, especially like in Magic Online leagues. This is not a tournament. This is not anything with high stakes. It's okay to just like play more Shredders for now and just try to get a feel for it. Especially when Shredder is very clearly powerful, viable, and it doesn't cost you very much to just, you know, be on those for now. Is this a good or bad matchup? I would imagine it's okay. Like, we have not only are like Shadow and Murktide usually very good against Rhinos, we also have Stubborn Denial, we've got Chalice, we've got Engineered Explosives. I think it's probably a pretty good matchup. Why did you choose to play Charm instead of Counterspell here? So in that spot, I think with the Murktide Regent being lethal in the next turn, I'm never going to choose a mode on Archmage's Charm that's not counter target spell. So that means on the next turn, I want to have the most mana efficient plays as possible. So I could potentially draw another Archmage's Charm and play Counterspell and Charm on the next turn. Not very likely to be relevant, but I think like as soon as you're so ahead in the game that you know you're never choosing any mode besides counter target spell, at that point it's okay to just use the counterspell there for mana efficiency. So I could cut the third Fatal Push. I could cut the something else. Fourth Tainted Indulgence. We cut the third push. No, those are mana cost, Devil. Those are both 3 mana value. You mean the charm, not the counterspell? I thought I said what I meant. Actually, I don't know. I misspeak constantly. I don't know what I misspoke there, but I thought I said what I meant. This hand's great if it draws a black source. Any new charms good at modern? I've been liking Riveteer's Charm a decent amount. I am gonna mulligan that hand though. I've been liking Riveteer's Charm. 5/7. Don't want the disputes. I mean, usually I would bring in disputes, but I think dispute is kind of like the. I want at least 2 fatal pushes. You could suggest what you want disputes in over, but I think they're worse than Stubborn Denials, Charms, Counterspells, Drown the Locks. They're really only good against Force of Negation in the first place. Hey, sweetie. Thank you. You feeling a bit better?
No.
No? Oh, no.
I bought sore throat spray.
Yes, just had a sore throat. We're hoping it's not the Rona. I think I have to take the dispute with the charm in my hand. Just go play this out. What percent of time does Indulgence have to be turned on to be better than Expressive Iteration? Indulgence is not better than Expressive Iteration, ever. Yeah, you're not playing it because it's better than Expressive Iteration here. You're playing it because it does give you that card draw at instant speed, which is like nice in your counterspell deck, and it like allows you to build the deck this way. But like Expressive Iteration is a strength over this Dimir version. Think instant speed, 2-minute divination wouldn't be a better card than iteration? No, I don't. I think that the card selection on iteration is really, really strong. I could be wrong, but I do think that iteration is basically at the very least that's also not what we're talking about, right? Like 2 mana instant speed draw 2 doesn't exist. Indulgence is not that card, right? So like that's not what we're talking about here. I could play around Force of Negation by not attacking. I think it's fine to attack because I know they have the endurance. That's not what we're talking about. Like Indulgence is never going to be in any deck 100% of the time. 2 mana draw 2. Oh, they did draw Force of Negation. Well, that sucks. What's the reason of not including Snap? We're a 17 land deck. Snapcaster is not that powerful also. Snapcaster is like good in like the more controlling decks, not like these lists so much. I do find that in these matchups a lot of time you do lose to like endurance beatdown. Knight's Whisper. I don't know. I think Indulgence is better than Knight's Whisper, but we're also like with Street Wraith, we're not. I mean, you could I guess not play Street Wraith if you played Knight's Whisper. Frantic Inventory. Frantic Inventory is really bad with Murktide Indulgence. So like at least like feels your Murktide a bit better and like you have more control over it. I don't know. We're currently 4-0 up a game, chat. I feel like I have got a pretty good list here. I'm pretty happy with the cards choices. I spent a long time on it. All right. Oh, they're casting Borrower. It's actually pretty good. I think so. We can. Oh man. No Revolt here. But the very rare intentionally cast Chalice into Chalice so that we can play at Murktide. Push. We don't have Revolt, so Push doesn't kill either of my opponent's creatures. The Chalice countering my Chalice doesn't trigger Revolt. Can't cycle that. We could have pushed plus Murktide. We could have pushed in order to make the Murktide a 5/5, but a 5/5 Murktide isn't really that relevant, right? I think it's better to kill the flyer, because my shadow can check the endurance. Yeah, Chalice counting Chalice does not trigger Revolt. Okay, here I'm going to look for counter magic. This is all coming together, huh? It's my opponent's last card, Mystical Dispute. It's not. Oh boy. We're still in kind of a precarious position at 3 life here, but we're not dead on board. Dead to a burn spell next turn, maybe. No, actually not dead to a burn spell next turn. So I could attack here. If I attack, I put my opponent down to 7, and then next turn they attack with both of these. I eat their endurance. I go to 1, and then I kill them on the backswing. This line loses to a burn spell off the top. But I think that I'm more like if they top deck a Rhinos, like this line beats like a top decked Rhinos, so seems like I guess it doesn't beat Violent Outburst, it beats Shardless Agent. Yeah, we're dead. I guess not dead to ice if we don't make this attack. I think it's just good to attack and try to kill them next turn. They can't leave both creatures back and chump block next turn, but that's also a good thing for us. Yeah, I think I'm just okay like trying to just like push my luck here. Play to win, not play to not lose. Then here we can potentially pump the brakes. I think it's just good to attack. No, last card. So no, they pitched the Subtlety to force. I have to attack with both, unfortunately, to force the chump block. Now I'm no longer dead to a top decked bounce spell or borrower, but I am dead to Fire Ice, Violent Outburst, Brazen Bar, Bone Crusher. Yeah, I know I lose to a lot more stuff, but my hand's just an island, and I'm not sure my top decks are better than my opponents, so I think I'm just supposed to try to win. Why didn't they attack with Shardless last turn? I had a blocker available with Shardless for the I had a Murktide up, and we did win. We 5-0'd first league on the day with the deck. I'm definitely a believer in the list. Oh, and we opened a full art Ragavan. Although Ragavans are and a Sentinel. Pretty good chests. What is this? Curiosity Crafter. Alright, let's run it back. I'm still not 100% sure I want the Inquisitions, but I at least like believe in what's going on here. And then we can get